Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be talking all about the moon houses, moon through the houses, through this perspective of where do you feel and emotionally attach. So thinking about how the houses show different areas of life. Now, before we do dive in, firstly, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let me know where is the moon in your chart. Moon for me, moon is in Aries in the 8th house. Okay. Also, I want to say, make sure to watch the moon through the signs video because that video is going to help you understand the how. So, how you feel, how you emotionally attach. But with the houses, this is more about the where. Okay. So, with that being said, let's get into the houses. Moon through the houses. And if you are interested in booking a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. You can also find my practical astrology eBooks guide, cheat sheets, all that good stuff. You can also find my products over on Etsy, by the way. And I want to take a moment to say thank you so much to my patrons over at Patreon for all of your support. Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the channel. And if you would like to join the Patreon, you can do so by going to the link below. Plus, for more information about the moon in astrology, you can give the episode a listen, right? So over on my podcast, the Cosmic Check-In podcast, I talk all about the moon. Yeah, so more so through this lens of upbringing, and then emotional needs will be touched on there, and then safety too. Okay, let's just go over some information. I did talk about this information, so I shared this in my most recent video. So thinking about the moon through the signs. But in case you missed it, the moon in astrology is so much about how and where you need to feel safe, especially feeling safe enough to share your emotions. Because, hey, you know what? Sharing our emotions can be a very vulnerable thing. It requires vulnerability. So we need to feel like we can trust others, that we're safe, that we have that protective space to open up. So indeed, the moon is about our emotional security, but it's also about how we meet our own emotional needs. So whenever a certain emotion does arise, how do we meet that need? How do we fulfill it? The moon is also linked to our upbringing, our conditioning, our past conditioning, considering the family that you grew up in, the experiences that you had, the memories, the moments that you shared, and how such matters as well can really impact us psychologically for the future, right? And so in this way, the moon is also about the unconscious. The moon points toward our unconscious. And so we can work with the moon. We can try to figure out, right, what are my emotional reactions here? Why am I reacting this way? Oh, I can see that the past, okay, this happened and my mother was like this and my father was like this and this is how they argued, etc. Oh, okay, you can make sense of it. But then, of course, just in general, the moon is really about how emotions are regulated, how we can regulate our own emotions, right? It's so much about our emotional well-being, the emotional body. Now, again, when it comes to our emotional well-being, such matters are linked to childhood there too. So you kind of think about, how did your parents react whenever you were emotional? So yes, the moon is about how we can regulate and support our emotions and how we can help and assist others through their own emotions, how we can care for others, right? We can show that support. We can be nurturing. The moon then also is about our feelings of belonging. How supported do we feel within a situation, within a group? Do we feel like we belong? And then naturally, emotional attachments are formed. How do you attach emotionally to others? Is it difficult for you to attach emotionally? So this is what we're going to be looking at today. And just to go over more information about your emotional needs and attachments, a person's emotional needs explain the feelings or conditions they need in order to feel fulfilled and happy. When their emotional needs are met, they can experience inner harmony and balance. They can feel peaceful. However, when their emotions aren't met, they can feel frustrated, they can feel irritated, dissatisfaction is likely. A person's emotional needs depends on many factors such as their upbringing, values, their identity, how they see themselves, and according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, some basic human emotional needs include security, attention, and a sense of achievement. Now, as for a person's emotional attachments, well, they refer to feelings of closeness and affection that develop over time within meaningful relationships. Healthy attachment is normal in close connections. And emotional attachments to possessions and beliefs, etc., can also grow. And it's our attachments that help us feel secure, feel safe. But you see, our emotional needs and our emotional attachments, they go hand in hand because to attach emotionally is a need within itself. Emotional attachment can create greater love and belonging, right? Again, we go back to experiencing a sense of belonging. And so, yes, this is why the moon in astrology is so vital to look at. It's tied to safety, support, belonging, and feeling emotionally secure. So again, just to remind you that moon through the signs, we explored the how. So how do you feel and how do you emotionally attach? But today, as we explore moon through the houses, this is about the where. So on that note, let's get into this. Moon in the first house individuals. Okay. If you have the moon in the first house, or if the moon is in the first house in your chart, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your identity. So how you see yourself, how you view the world around you, you need to feel safe within the environment you're in. You can be sensitive to the environment. And you are impacted emotionally by what you perceive and by what you take in. Others often see you as caring, as accommodating, perhaps at times as protective or as guarded. And you follow a path of nurturance and being sympathetic. Okay, you could be a natural caregiver, for instance, or you could be someone who is very, you're very much interested in caring for others later on in life. You could behave as a caregiver, or just behaving as a caregiver just comes natural to you. And so you might look like someone who is nurturing, who is caring. You might even look like your mother, or you might look like your primary caregiver or guardian. You are instinctively supportive and intuitive, and you must feel secure in new situations. That's a big thing for you. If you do not feel secure within new situations, then it's likely that you will remove yourself or retreat or be quite suspicious of others. Perhaps you played a motherly role from a young age, okay? So it could be, for instance, that you grew up with many brothers and sisters, right? A lot of siblings in the home. Or maybe it's that you were expected in a way to look after siblings or nieces and nephews, etc., right? So that's a possibility there. Or, maybe it's that you just grew up being very kind and being very respectful toward animals or toward any pets that you had. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest that you find it difficult to feel emotionally secure. Coming out of your shell can be challenging. But you see, as you grow, you may start to open up and you may also start to let others in. But you see, perhaps this is also about the company that you keep. That's maybe very important to you. It may be very important to you that the people within your close circle, that they're safe people, really. This is so much about safety, your emotional safety. And whenever you establish those types of bonds with others, or whenever you feel even this sense of belonging, then you're going to attach even more emotionally, right? Could even be here that you attach emotionally to your aims, your goals, right? You could even be very ambitious, very much a go-getter when it comes to what you want out of life. You could possibly make certain moves that indicate that so moves that make sure that you are looked after, okay? Because that could be a big thing for you, an important thing for you, making sure that you are looked after. Now, this is where we want to think about the how, because the sign is going to matter, isn't it? So let's say that the moon is in Cancer. Well, this could very well heighten what I just said there. I mean, when it comes to being supportive, being motherly, being nurturing, whenever you were younger, this could be further highlighted and indicated there. You could also be extra protective as well in terms of your energy, in terms of the people that you surround yourself with, etc. But then let's say the moon is in Sagittarius and it's in the first house. Well, you may be a bit more freedom loving, or you might take a while to kind of attach on an emotional level with others. Maybe you really need your freedom, you need your space, you need to feel like you have the ability to be independent, to roam, to explore the world, etc. But by you having that space and having that freedom for you, right, the self, the first house, then you're more likely to feel that sense of belonging and that security. And so because that's there, then this is where we notice those greater bonds with others too. Now, I also want to mention that if you have a Cancer rising, so if Cancer is on the rising, if Cancer is in the first house, you could very well relate to some of the information that I just shared there. But what you want to do is you want to locate the moon. Where is the moon in the chart? The moon is the chart ruler for you. So you want to consider, okay, which sign is it in, which house is it in, and then bring that information back to the first house. And then that information can give you more insights as to how you approach the world, how you show up, like how you enter new situations, your aims, your goals, and so on. Okay, let's now turn our focus to the moon in the second house individuals. Moon in the second house individuals, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your self-worth. Yes. Feeling valued when you share your emotions is important to you. And let me just say, whenever you do not feel valued, whenever you share your emotions, then it's sort of like you can clam up. You can go back into your shell, right? We think about the moon, Cancer, the symbol being the crab here to do with Cancer. Yeah, you could very well go back into your shell, retreat. Stability, security, and materials make you feel safe as well. And so you could very well accumulate a lot. That could be a big sort of aim for you. It's to make sure that you have enough, you're provided for, your family has plenty, etc. You might collect things. You could be a big collector. Or you could be an emotional shopper, possibly. Let's even consider here the sign, because the sign is going to show the how, right? So let's say that the moon is in Leo. In terms of this emotional shopper stuff, my goodness, you could be spending your money on things like entertainment, fashion, art, creative projects, tools and resources for your creativity. But yeah, you could do this in a rather emotional way. But then let's say, for instance, that the moon is in Virgo, right? The moon's in Virgo in the second house. So when we consider you collecting things, you could collect coupons or these savings pieces, or you could collect fitness books or equipment. So yes, consider the sign that the moon is in, because that is going to show you the how. Perhaps also you turn to family for security reasons. And how you earn a living might include support, caretaking, or hospitality. Because naturally, the thing about the second house is it can show up as how we make money. So you can make money within these sort of professions with doing these roles, really. You are protective of your possessions and you provide comfort with them as well. Yeah. I mean, if the moon is in an earth sign, for instance, specifically if it's in Capricorn, yeah, you could be very protective of your business, of your security, of your resources, but then just as much as a way to kind of comfort others emotionally, you could, buy them something that is long lasting, that is, it's good quality, great quality. Maybe this is how you show you care, right? It's by sort of buying others useful products. So again, just to remind you, that could show up as, if you have moon in Capricorn there. But just overall, with moon in the second house, providing for yourself and your family matters to you, matters strongly to you. And so you're going to be tenacious, you're going to be very protective about your security, about your stability. Maybe you had to support yourself financially from a young age. That's a possibility. Or it's that your mother really played a big influence in your life in this way, or like a mother figure, or your primary caregiver really played a big influence in your life as a way to support you financially. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest insecurities regarding money and materials. Feeling that you're not enough is likely too. And so for you, as you grow, you may value yourself and feel a lot more secure, right? You may come to truly feel more emotionally secure. And maybe that is a process. Especially if, for instance, the moon is in Capricorn, because there could be some feelings of inadequacy there, or there could be fears of not being good enough. But then let's say the moon is in Scorpio, there could be these extremes, these real big extremes when it comes to your resources. It can go like from one side to the other side, and it's hard to sort of keep things level, right? The fluctuations are so intense. So maybe this is what you come up against in a way, right? This is where you're challenged quite a bit throughout your life, but it's also where you show great resilience. My goodness, you show great power and strength and resilience. Now, if Cancer rules the second house cusp, you might relate to some of the information that I just said there, especially if the moon is in Cancer in the second house. But you want to think about, where is the moon? Where is the moon in the chart? Then bring that information back to, okay, your self-worth, your emotional needs, and how your emotional needs, how your feelings are linked to your self-worth and your resources and your spending, etc. Alrighty, let's now turn our focus to moon in the third house individuals. With the moon in the third house here, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your communication. You must feel as if others are listening to you when you're talking, when you are sharing your emotions, right? There's this communication piece with it. Your emotions also influence your thoughts and your opinions. and your interests change frequently. There could be these fluctuations, right? Because the thing about the moon is that it's sort of like the tides, right? There are those fluctuations, those emotional fluctuations there. Yes, your interests could change frequently. And there is a need to learn and to discover new information. So, this is where things become interesting based on the sign. The sign you see is about the how. So, let's say the moon is in Aries there. What you may be really interested in, so thinking about discovering new information, learning new information, such topics could be related to fitness or coaching or adventure or cars, right? Driving or fighting, boxing, martial arts. Plus, taking short trips often is likely if you've got the moon in the third house, because this is like an emotional need of yours. And maybe there are certain short distance trips you take where there is that emotional attachment. There's a strong emotional attachment. That even makes me think about how for people with moon in the second house there again, there's that emotional attachment to the things they collect, right? So for you, moon in the third house individuals, yes, there could be certain short trips you take, and there's a lot of nostalgia with it. There's the sentimental feelings there, looking back on the past, creating memories. Now, if, for instance, let's say the moon is in Libra in the third house, when it comes to the short trip stuff, maybe you love to do that with your significant other. Maybe that's important to you. Or maybe you go to music events, you go to festivals, perhaps you go to certain retail places, right? So shopping could be a big part of this, or dining out with your significant other or with your friends, going for drinks, what have you. Okay, so there could be a lot of movement basically when it comes to how you move within your local area, and or just when it comes to visiting places really within your local area, just going from here, there, everywhere. And you may be receptive, you may possess a retentive mind, so you can retain a lot of information. Maybe a lot of it is just useless information, but a lot of it is actually useful information. You could be like this open person who just takes in new, interesting insights. And perhaps you can also be very engaging. There could be that emotional connection that you share with others in a way because you're empathetic, or because you want to kind of get to know other people. Maybe subconsciously you can be motherly with your words, right? Yeah, perhaps you're very caring in this way. And maybe you cared for your siblings from a young age. That's a possibility. Or maybe you cared for nieces and nephews. Yes. Cousins, caring for cousins. So there's those supportive roles there. Maybe too, you're quite chatty with your mother, right? Constantly sort of talking on the phone, or maybe that's what you prefer. Or, you're texting or messaging or sending each other memes or reels, whatever. Yes, if you come in the third house, maybe having some type of emotional connection with your mother, right? There's that communication piece through it. That's important. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest emotional issues with siblings or close relatives, or feeling insecure within your immediate environment. So there's that. Still, as you grow, you may develop stronger and closer bonds. And if you have their Cancer ruling the third house cusp in your chart, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared there. But you got to consider, where is the moon in the chart? Where is the moon? And then bring that information back to, okay, how do your emotions influence your thoughts and your opinions there? And bring it back to the short trip stuff or the learning new information stuff. Let's now move to the moon in the 4th house, individuals. Okay. If the moon is in the 4th house in your chart, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your roots. You tend to show emotional support and care toward your family. Sure, yes, it could be that you're a rather family-oriented person, but again, aspects matter, the sign matters. Maybe you're especially close with your mother, with your primary caregiver, with your guardian, and being close to your loved ones just makes you feel safe. And your early childhood can strongly impact you later in life. Maybe you're someone who you prefer to live quite close to your family. So even whenever you move out of your own family home, you get a home nearby to where your family already lives, or you like that feeling of having your family nearby. Maybe you're big into traditions, family gatherings, family outings, things like this, creating memories together, taking all the photographs, posting them on social media, whatever. And it is possible that you moved growing up. That's another thing. Maybe you moved growing up, or your family were quite private people. Could have been that. So there's a few different ways that this can go, of course. And you are protective of those you love. And like I was saying, you may love to create wonderful memories. Hey, maybe this is what was strongly encouraged, you see. This is what you were kind of conditioned in a way to feel or to be somewhat, because your mother, your primary caregiver, or your family were like this with you. It was that kind of close bond, and that was maybe important to them. So you then naturally could very well be like this with others. Maybe it's important to you that there is that emotional connection, that there is some type of attachment, even whenever you make friends with others, or whenever you are out there in the world communicating with other people. Maybe you had to support your family from a young age. That's another thing. And hey, this is where the sign comes in, right? Because let's say, for instance, the moon is in Pisces in the 4th house. This stuff to do with family and supporting your family from a young age. It could be that there was a lack of boundaries there. It could be that there was little privacy there. But then, hey, it could also very well be that you would keep to yourself quite a bit, and you're still like this. You prefer to keep to yourself. You really, really need your alone time, or maybe you need alone time away from certain family members for certain periods of time. It's like you can be in the heart of it and enjoying, but you also need that space too, right? But then let's say moon is in Aquarius in the 4th house. Well, then yes, very much being independent, being an individual. Hey, you might have been the weirdo of the family. You might have distanced yourself from your family, or it's that you come from a family that are very unique and quirky and unusual, or very intelligent. And maybe this was sort of passed on to you. It's really nurturing your own intelligence and your own outside of the box views and inventions, etc. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest that it's challenging to feel secure within your family. So there is that. You might feel as if you don't belong. And so as you grow, you may feel more connected and more settled. So even if, for instance, you didn't feel the most connected, or you didn't feel like you belonged, the thing about the 4th house is that it also shows up as us eventually sort of leaving the nest, getting a place of our own. So maybe for you, that is what you need, right? That's a big necessary thing. It's so that you feel more secure. So by you finding somewhere that you can call home, or just to find somewhere where you feel safe, that's just wow, such a big need, basically. And I also want to mention that if Cancer rules the 4th house cusp, or Cancer is on the IC in your chart, you may relate to some of the information that I just said. But again, you want to locate the moon. Where is the moon in the chart? Because the moon is going to provide you with more information there about family, about how you were nurtured, about how you were raised, etc., about those emotional attachments and connections that you formed with family and so on. Right, let's now think about moon in the 5th house, individuals. So with the moon being in the 5th house, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your creativity. There is a need to express yourself through your art, through your creations. I mean, without this, it can feel like a part of you is missing, I think. And whatever you create typically reflects your feelings and your inner self. I mean, you could have grown up with a parental figure, primary caregiver, mother who was very creative, very performative, very much about the arts. And so those things could have been sort of passed on to you. And you can move others with your passionate emotions. My goodness, you can be super creative and colorful with your emotions. And inwardly, you can be dramatic, you can be fun-loving, you can be very playful. Maybe that play and that fun and that sort of vibrancy is really needed when it comes to romance and love. Like you love love and you love to feel like you're desired. You love to feel like, your romantic partner, whoever you're dating, sees you and they don't try to dim your light. Your inner child, you see, wants to shine. And maybe ever since you can remember, you've been a performer, you've been musical, you've been artistic, you've been very much involved with entertainment, entertaining others. And yeah, so when it comes to romance, you tend to wear your heart on your sleeve. Maybe you need that attention. You need to feel like there's plenty of love, especially, hey, if the moon is in Leo here in the 5th house. I mean, this could very well heighten what I'm saying here. And you are also sensitive with lovers. You're caring toward lovers. You can be very supportive in this way. And if you have children, you can be very, very supportive and loving and nurturing toward them. Maybe having children is a big thing here for you because, of course, the 5th house rules children within astrology. Or maybe you've been, as I was saying earlier, you've been creative from a very, very young age, or maybe from a young age, you've kind of been able to say, hey, yes, I really want to have children one day. Of course, this is where aspects and the sign also matters, right? But let's just kind of play around then with the sign. So the sign naturally is going to show the how. So let's say the moon is in Gemini. I mean, when it comes to the scene stuff and the feelings of specialness and stuff like this, a lot of this is to do with, are you listening to me? Are you paying attention to what I'm saying? Can we talk about this? This is important to me. I really need to talk about this. But then let's say, for example, the moon is in, let's go with Sagittarius again. Let's say the moon is in Sagittarius. Maybe what you need then is that freedom within love. It's freedom within relationships. Or it's that you instill freedom and exploration and adventure onto your children. So if you have children, you may find that they're quite free-spirited because you sort of pass it on to them. You nurture the parts of them that can be free and that are open to learning new things and discovery, exploration, all that good stuff. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest that it's hard connecting with your inner child, so there is that. Depending on others for validation is also likely, but as you grow, you may accept yourself and what you love. This is so much about your own self-love then, feeling that within. Also, if Cancer rules the 5th house cusp, you could very well relate to some of the information that I just said there, but you want to locate where is the moon. Locate the moon within your chart, bring it back to the 5th house. The moon can provide you with more information about your passionate emotions. It can provide you with more information about how your inner child wants to shine. Okay, let's now think about the moon in the 6th house. So For those of you with the moon in the 6th house in your chart, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your daily work. Feeling secure within your job is so important, as well as following routines that suit your everyday needs. Your daily rituals can provide comfort and emotional security. Yes, especially here if the moon is in an earth sign. So let's say the moon is in Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo. There really is a strong focus here on, okay, showing it's more about the connecting your routines and your schedules with how you feel secure, not just emotionally, but also practically. It's that your practical security, the physical security is also tied in with your emotional security, but it's through your routines that this all sort of happens. It's through the work that you do. So finding that secure, stable job, for instance, especially if the moon is in Taurus, right? If the moon is in Taurus in the 6th house, this is like, okay, I am willing to take on a job where there is consistency. I know what to expect from it. It's not very complicated, right? It's drama free. I feel somewhat at ease in it. It's not high pressure. Maybe that's just, yeah, that's an important part of it. Plus, having that steady paycheck there with the moon in Taurus. But then if the moon is in Capricorn, this is where we're going to notice greater pressure. There could be greater pressure involved. There could be a greater focus on business or entrepreneurship or, yeah, starting your own business perhaps. But then let's say the moon is in Virgo in the 6th house, this stuff could be more related to health or you being within a caregiving supportive role. So we think about nursing, we think about being a doctor, we think about pharmacies, right? Working within a pharmaceutical place. So yes, there's a greater focus there with the moon being in Virgo. Perhaps as well, just in general, with the moon in the 6th house, maybe your services or work include, as I was saying, caregiving, providing emotional support, even helping females in this way. Or maybe your work involves, well, you working with family members. You could even take on the family business, or yeah, there could be an involvement of, okay, the family is together here. And let's even think about if the moon is in Leo, for instance, and it's in the 6th house. This could be a silly example, but it could be you starting a band with your family, right? Singing with them, writing music with them. Yes, performing together. Still, your health and your daily duties here are likely to fluctuate because the moon, it's so much about your feelings, but then it's also about your actual physical body and the tasks and the responsibilities that are involved here. But then it's also about how you feel in relation to these very areas. You support your coworkers and you show kindness toward them, and you also show kindness toward pets, people of service, right? You can be very caring, very genuine. Maybe you've gone out of your way to help others from a very young age there. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest health problems, diet concerns. And so as you grow, you may seek support and you may also come to really work on your energy levels. Now, if Cancer rules the 6th house cusp in your chart, you could very well relate to some of that information that I was just sharing there, okay? But you want to think about the location of the moon itself. Locate the moon, get that information, bring it back to your services, your work, your routines, and how such matters also can fluctuate still. Okay, with Cancer there. Right. Let's now think about moon in the 7th house, folks. With the moon in the 7th house, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your relationships. You seek emotional support from others and you must feel emotionally secure And I can't help but think that you might attract certain partners who are like this, who can support you emotionally. Developing a close and affectionate bond with your significant other is important to you. Knowing that you can trust them, they're loyal, you can rely on them. Yes. And you can be responsive too to your partner's needs, even to the needs of certain friends, co-workers, etc., business partners, and adaptable. You can be adaptable to new partnership environments. You can adapt pretty well, especially if the moon is in immutable sign, right? If it's in Gemini or if it's in Sagittarius, for instance, you could very well adapt to new partnership environments there quite well. And in return, you crave sympathy, you crave care, you crave that support, right? Maybe the people you attract, they remind you in some way of your mother, of your primary caregiver, of a guardian. And you are kind toward others. My goodness, moon in the 7th house, folks, you can be so, so kind toward other people. You can show them love and patience, but you also expect to be treated with the same kindness. So if your kindness is taken for granted, if your kindness is mistreated, right? If you are mistreated, then you can become very protective, essentially. Perhaps you have mirrored other people's emotions from a young age. And so, to be honest, this is where this can be quite a tricky one within itself, because the mirroring other people's emotions from a young age, this is about you coming to terms with that. Maybe there could be something from your past of, why that is, why you do that. But hey, do you know what? This also makes you a very empathetic person, very good at reading other people emotionally. And that can be supportive within your life, right? That can help you within business, for instance. My goodness. Let's even think of, let's think about if the moon is in Scorpio in the 7th house. Then this really could be where you can read between the lines super well. You can pick up on the little nuances. Yeah, you can see those things on a much more sort of deeper level. And you may not be able to exactly pinpoint or know, but you go with a feeling. You go with your gut feeling. And then maybe you're usually right about people if the moon is in Scorpio. But then, hey, let's say the moon is in Libra in the 7th house. Perhaps you can be amazing when it comes to partnership, when it comes to trying to understand other people more intellectually, but also you can sort of mirror then what other people are trying to say. But that within itself supports other people emotionally. Yeah. With the moon in Libra in the 7th, my goodness, you could be incredible when it comes to sort of building that rapport within business, right? So thinking about the business partnership stuff. Plus, as for clients and customers, if you've got moon in the 7th house, there could be the emotional support that you're able to provide. And that comes through. And people see that. People feel that. Really. People feel, right? So clients and customers that you work with, they feel your support. And because you help them sort of, well, they identify that emotion with you, basically. So how they felt in that moment when you were maybe serving them or dealing with them, they're going to remember that feeling, remember that emotion, which could be positive or negative, to be honest. Still, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest that you can be codependent or clingy within relationships. So that's kind of why I was trying to say earlier with, mirroring other people's emotions from a young age. It's important to also be like, hey, that's your stuff over there. You're going to feel how you feel, and I feel how I feel. As you grow still, you may feel greater security and ease. Yes. And if Cancer is on the descendant, if Cancer is in the 7th house in your chart, you could very well relate to some of the information I just said. But for you, you want to locate the moon. Locate the moon in the chart and then bring that information back to, okay, the bonds, okay, the close and affectionate bonds that you establish with others. And thinking about it again, how responsive you can be to your partner's needs and responsive to clients and customers. Okay, let's now think about moon in the 8th house individuals. With the moon in the 8th house, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your transformations. Your intense and powerful emotions can be both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because you look beneath the surface and you prefer to connect with others on an intimate level. But a curse because you feel as if you feel as if others don't get you, because they don't possess the same emotional depth as you. Now, like I was saying earlier, the moon is in Aries in the 8th house in my chart, and I can relate to this. I often feel as if people do not get me, and I feel so intensely, I feel so deeply about things. And so when people can't meet me on that level, it really frustrates me, and I can become quite angered, especially whenever I was younger. I was quite immature about this stuff. But as I've sort of grown, I've recognized that people can only, what's that whole saying? I can't remember the saying, but people can only meet you emotionally at through how much they've met themselves, that type of thing. So trying to have that separation a little bit, because that's the thing too. I can just take it all in too much, other people's emotions, especially, any traumas they've been through or challenges that they've faced in life. I can let that really get to me. And whilst it's like, yes, I can hold space for that emotional support, this is just my own sort of experience. It's learning how to recognize not everybody is ready to hear what I have to say, what I have to share. And it's important for me to actually pull back and wait, right? It's like, wait for that invitation, wait for other people to really, and I mean authentically, genuinely ask me, what do you think? Yes. Still, with the moon in the 8th house, you are highly reflective and you know what your strengths and what your weaknesses are. There's this psychoanalysis stuff that goes on if you've got the moon in the 8th house. You're willing to kind of address your own emotions there, even though it's difficult. And you are extremely passionate, you're very insightful, and emotional trauma and psychological pain are likely here. So for you, I mean, perhaps you have been to therapy or it's something that you're wanting to go to. I mean, I've been in psychotherapy for the past 4 years. And perhaps also you have felt intensely from a young age. I mean, I can relate to this. And that's a big part of why I went to therapy, because I was like, why do I feel so strongly? What's happening here? And then I've been able to unravel these mysteries, so to speak, and link them back to the past and my upbringing. Now, like I said, the moon is in Aries in my chart. So to remind you, the moon by sign is going to show the how. So for me, this is more about, okay, I'm taking the lead. I'm jumping right in. I'm taking the risk. I'm being passionate in some ways about this experience. I'm ready. Yes, give it to me, But I mean, the moon could be in Scorpio, and that's more like guarded. That's more like, no, 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 no. You're not going to know that information about me. Why on earth would I talk to anybody about my feelings? Hey, I'm too suspicious here. Or let's say the moon is in Taurus. This experience could be much more slow and gradual, and you need that patience. It's like, okay, I'm going to take my time and to think about, okay, what's happening within me and why do I feel so strongly? But then let's say the moon is in Libra. There could be a greater need to weigh out the pros and the cons. Or maybe you're able to live more in the gray when it comes to this stuff. Disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest destructive behaviors and paranoia. Still, as you grow, you may trust others and no longer hide. just want to say the moon does make challenging aspects to other planets in my chart, and I can relate to that information. Yes. You know what? In general, I think if you've got moon in the 8th house, a big emotional sort of need here is linked to intimacy and trust. It's very important that you do trust others. And maybe it's that your trust has been disrespected or there has been certain betrayals throughout your life, but how you sort of cope with those things, I think, is more about the sign. So the sign is going to show the how, right? I mean, if the moon is in Virgo, this stuff could be a bit more analytical, right? Trying to analyze everything or trying to make sense of things on a more sort of practical level, or even just thinking about your own health, taking a closer look at your health and your body and the importance of just looking after your body there and how such things are linked to those intense feelings of yours. And I also just want to say too that with the moon being in the 8th house, my goodness, it can almost feel like people come to you as this emotional baggage place, right? Maybe this is sort of a part of the curse. You may find that people dump their emotional stuff onto you because it's like, oh, well, they'll listen, or it's like you're a magnet for this type of stuff. But on a more beneficial level, well, it could also be that people do open up to you because they feel like they can trust you with their sort of private stuff, with their innermost thoughts and stuff like this. Yeah. But in general, I just think that what's important for you is to experience a level of depth with others, to have that emotional connection. And then you're going to feel a lot more safe and you can attach more emotionally there too. Now, just another thing with the mother stuff, primary caregiver, guardian stuff, there could be some type of intensities there related to the mother. Could be the death, the loss of a mother. It could be commanding, controlling mother figure in your life or a family member in your life. And then these things perhaps are linked to why it's difficult for you to trust, if you understand. Anyway, so also Cancer on the 8th house cusp. If you have Cancer on the 8th house cusp, you may relate to some of the information that I just shared. And you want to think about, where is the 8th house in your chart? Where is the moon? Where is the moon in your chart? Locate the moon in your chart and then bring it back to the 8th house. Oh, that one for me was a bit heavy. So I'm sorry. I hope that was okay. Just because I have that placement personally, and it was quite heavy. Moving on to something a bit more lighter though. Moon in the 9th house, folks. So with the moon in the 9th house, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your worldviews. You feel secure whenever you have a supportive belief system, or when you travel to destinations that hold sentimental value. Maybe you love creating traditions when it comes to travel. Maybe you become familiar with certain places. And hey, it is likely that you moved growing up, or family from overseas would visit often. We could especially see this if the moon is in Sagittarius in the 9th house, or even if the moon is in Cancer in the 9th house, right? There's maybe a greater likelihood of you relocating or moving whenever you were younger. You also seek to know what your meaning in life is, and you can be receptive to philosophies and teachings that move you, that really move you. You are sensitive and emotional about your faith. Perhaps you have comforted others with your beliefs from a young age. So let's say, for instance, that the moon is in Pisces. You could be a very spiritual person, and the way that you comfort others, right? Thinking about again with your beliefs, that is really shown in this highly empathetic, compassionate way, maybe being very, very forgiving. perhaps even doing some spiritual work there across the world or wanting to help others. But then let's say that the moon is in, let's go with, I'm trying to think of who else. Let's go with Aries again, right? Back to Aries. Maybe for you, there's just so much desire and drive within you to want to visit here, there, and everywhere. Maybe you're big into solo travel, taking solo trips, or it could be that you're very quick to share your views and your opinions with others. You can be very, very passionate. You could very well show through your actions your philosophies and your teachings. And in a similar fashion with Moon in Sagittarius, you can be like this. Maybe even with Moon in Sagittarius, you could be like a teacher, an educator, possibly preaching at others what your philosophies and teachings are. But there is that excitement, there's that enthusiasm present. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest smothering others with your teachings or lacking meaning. As you grow, you may loosen your grip and feel more optimistic. And if Cancer rules the 9th house cusp in your chart, you could very well relate to some of the information that I just shared. But for you, locate the moon. Where is the moon in your chart? Take that information back to, okay, your emotional connections and how those things are linked to, how your emotional connections are linked to your worldviews and your beliefs. Those emotional attachments there. Rightio, let's now think about moon in the 10th house individuals. So with the moon in the 10th house, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your reputation. You care deeply about how the public perceives you. Being successful and feeling accomplished may really matter to you. Or maybe your mother or primary caregiver encouraged you to work hard on your long-term goals. Or your family influenced your career decisions. You may show support toward bosses, managers, and people of influence. And as I was saying earlier, people who have moon in the 6th house, right, possibly working with family members, it could very well be that you enter into a career based on, right, family situations, possibly taking over your father's business or your mother's business there if you've got moon in the 10th house. Your career may include caregiving, housing, nursing. Think about real estate there, interior design, renting out a space. You are caring, you're insightful in front of the public, and maybe you were in the public eye from a young age. I mean, we see this, I think, when it comes to certain celebrities or child stars who have moon in the 10th house. Ever since they were young, right, they were already in front of the public. They were in the spotlight, which there's so many complications with that, naturally, with people coming forward today. Not all negative, of course. So yes, you could very well relate then in some way if you've got moon in the 10th house to that information. But again, we want to think about the sign. So the sign is going to show the how. So let's say, for instance, the moon is in Gemini in the 10th house. There could be more of a focus on the words that you say and convey to the public, that they, those words carry forward and can help the public, support the public at large, whether this be through reporting or through marketing or through some, like a retail role, for instance, sales. But then let's think if the moon is in Virgo in the 10th house in your chart. Perhaps there is a greater emphasis there, a greater focus there on nursing, or maybe working within the medical industry or working within the health industry, being of service to others, right? And maybe that's a big, big focus for you. It's important that you are of service to others. You may not even look at your career as like a career, so to speak. It's more about this is my mission. This is what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm supposed to be helping other people. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest that you feel insecure about your public image or you feel dissatisfied. But then as you grow, you may find what you need and feel more secure then. If Cancer is on the 10th house cusp, or if Cancer is on the midheaven, you could relate to the information that I just said, but naturally, you want to locate where the moon is in your chart. Locate the moon, see what's happening there, bring that information back and relate it to, okay, the career stuff and how that career stuff could very well be linked to being a caregiver or the real estate stuff or the housing stuff or being insightful in front of the public, these things. Okay, let's now think about moon in the 11th house, folks. So if the moon is in the 11th house in your chart, your emotional needs and attachments are tied to your group involvements. You often turn to your friends for emotional support. You seek to feel emotionally connected within your communities, within your groups. You need to feel secure, right? That way, whenever there is that emotional connection, you are going to feel secure and safe. Maybe certain friends feel more like family than friends, or you are very selective about the types of friends you have and the types of friends that you let into your social circle, really. You also understand human behavior and are very, very accepting of others, very empathetic of others in the group, and you're protective as well. You can be very protective of your friends, very protective of people within the group, members within the group. I mean, if you feel as if, a member in the group is being mistreated or isn't, being treated fairly, then yeah, you could then be protective of them and maybe even try to support them. And you can also be protective of your future plans and your goals, right? So thinking about your hopes for the future, maybe even your hopes and wishes for the future is so much about belonging and emotional security and home and family, these things. Maybe you have craved belonging from a young age. So maybe it's within those group dynamics or organizations, clubs that you're a part of that you create, right? You crave that belonging. You need that belonging. If you feel like there is a lack of that connection, if you feel like you don't feel safe, then you may very well leave that situation. Or if you feel like you've been slighted in any way, you can retreat. Yes, you may feel like you need to defend yourself. Maybe you're quite emotional around friends, or it's that you attract friends and social circles where there is a lot of emotion involved there. Again, let's think about the sign. So the sign is going to show the how. So if the moon is in Leo in the 11th house, I mean, your communities and the groups you're a part of, they could be drama related or entertainment related. And so there's a lot of very dramatic emotions that come out of you, and you're very passionate and you're feeling this sense of aliveness and yes, 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 we're all in this together. It's all about that fun and yeah, just everyone enjoying themselves. Maybe that's so important. But then let's say the moon is in Aquarius, there could be some type of aloofness there, or, the group is it's a group full of weirdos, or you feel like the weirdo within the group, or you feel like you are the unusual one within the group. And there's a part of you that sort of likes that, sort of doesn't like that. Or maybe you're just big into friendship. Maybe that's what you need emotionally. It's like you need to feel like people are a friend to you first and foremost. However, disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest unsettled emotions in groups or feeling unsure of your contribution to the group. Remember, the 11th house is so much about how we contribute. And so as you grow, you may feel greater emotional security and you may seek clarity. Naturally, if Cancer rules the 11th house cusp in your chart, you may relate to some of the information I just said, but what you want to think about is locating the moon. Where is the moon in your chart? And then bring that information back to the 11th. I'll give you an example of this. So in my chart, Cancer rules the 11th house cusp. And I can relate to a lot of the information that was just communicated there, was shared there. But the moon is in the 8th house. And so there's a greater deal of intensity. There's a greater deal of feeling very, very strongly about my friends and about the emotional support that I receive within my friendship groups, but then equally feeling safe. It's so important to me that I feel safe. And also the transformations that I have went through when it comes to friendships, when it comes to group involvements. And that's the thing too, just in general with the moon in the 11th house, it could be that your social environments, your social groups and circles, they fluctuate quite heavily there. There are those fluctuations. Lastly then, let's think about moon in the 12th house individuals. All right. With the moon in the 12th house, your emotional needs and your attachments are tied to your alone time, being able to retreat, solitude, your own space, especially if the moon is in Pisces, if the moon is in Aquarius there. You are highly sensitive to the events happening around you, and it can be easy for you to become subconsciously influenced by others to sort of soak up everybody else's emotional gunk, so to speak, kind of similar to the moon in the 8th house, folks. But you see, it can be easy for you to become really swept up in those tides. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have no control over this. The lines can be blurred, boundaries can be crossed. And so this is where you really need to withdraw. You need to withdraw from the world. You need to reconnect with your inner self. I mean, you can be such highly, highly sensitive people, as I was saying there. And so perhaps even in this way, it can feel like a lot of the time, like you are alone. It's like, oh, I don't feel like I can relate or can connect with other people because I am just so, so sensitive. So in this way, I want to show empathy toward you because if you do feel like others don't really, if they can't meet you where you're at in this way, that can be a lonely place. Or if you're made to feel a certain way for you actually experiencing your emotions, again, that can be difficult. Maybe your mother or your primary caregiver, your guardian, they died whenever you were growing up, or there was this feeling of like abandonment there present, or it's that they were emotionally absent. There was no one really there for that emotional support. And so maybe for you, you long for security, and being in solitude can really help calm your many emotions. Being able to switch off social media, not engaging with the outside world so much, even allowing that stuff into your space. Maybe you're very, very selective about what you read, about what you listen to or watch, etc., because you know that stuff is going to impact you in some way. You're going to take it in. But then you're also highly intuitive and highly imaginative. I mean, you could very well have had these psychic visions from a very, very young age. You could be someone who has the most vivid dreams that actually end up coming true. Yeah, your dreams could take you to these incredible places. And then there's also like the symbolism and the meanings that you see in things, and you feel it all. It's the feeling tone with it. Oh, I'm sure it can be rather remarkable. I mean, you could very well go on what feels like this journey of curiosity, this spiritual journey of curiosity, where you're feeling all types of ways. Now, again, with the sign, moon by sign is going to show the how. And then the house is the where. So let's say the moon is actually in Sagittarius in the 12th house. This stuff I talk about, with dreams, imagination, etc., the travels of your mind, my goodness. From a very, very young age, you could have visualized or dreamed of traveling or joining a certain program, right? Becoming involved in a certain training program. that helps you explore the world or helps you grow in some way. But then let's say the moon is in, I'm trying to think of others that we've maybe not explored as much. Hey, let's say Cancer. Well, yeah, this stuff about like psychic visions and possible psychic abilities, it's really heightened here. And you could very well be like a medium, or you could get these messages that just pour through. It's like this stream of consciousness or these cosmic downloads that come through. But maybe for you as well, you're very, very sensitive, extra sensitive to this stuff. And so it is important for you to put your needs first. And disharmonious aspects to your moon can suggest repressed emotions and denial of dependency. But as you grow, you may show vulnerability and you may also accept emotional support too. And if Cancer rules the 12th house cusp for you, you may very well relate to the information, some of the information that I just shared. But for you, what you want to think about is locate the moon. Locate the moon and then bring that information back to, okay, what about your emotional needs and your time alone there, and how sensitive you can be, and how sensitive especially you can be when it comes to everyone else around you, and just why that's so important for you to have that time alone then. Okay, so everyone, this has been Moon Through the Houses. Thank you all so much for watching. And again, if you're interested in joining the Patreon, you can do so. The link is down below. It's a great way to support the channel. Thank you so much to my patrons for all of your support over there. I really appreciate you. Thank you for listening, everyone. And you can, of course, book a reading with me by going to hannahselsewhere.com. Plus, if you really enjoyed today's video, you can always buy me a coffee. Naturally, there's no pressure to do anything, but just in general, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And again, let me know, where is the moon in your chart? Yes, where is the moon? And just a reminder, the sign is the how and the house is the where. Thank you everyone so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!